Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Geek Blend. I'm Jeff, and I'm joined again by Lost Jedi 22 to go through our Orville deep drive that we do every week. And this is going to be episode 3, entitled About a Girl. So before I get into my thoughts, I'm going to pass over to you. What were your first initial thoughts?
I didn't like this episode at all. Honestly, this was an extreme disappointment. And just to sum it up really quickly, if I were watching this live and we weren't doing the show and I haven't heard such great things about it, it'd probably be the last watch. If I was watching this week to week when it aired, I probably wouldn't tune in for the next episode.
Yeah, I will agree with that. All of what you just said. Didn't like it. It was very preachy with the message of the show. And if this was something I was watching live and I'm like, okay, next week is another episode, I don't think I would tune in. Would you say this was a woke episode if you had to describe it like that?
I don't really know, because to me, it was mixed. I mean, the episode starts off with you thinking it's going the transgender route. I mean, they even use the word transgender, but then it becomes more of a woman power thing. They were trying to hit us over the head with the message, but I'm not even sure they got their message right. It just was weird to me.
Yeah, it seemed to kind of go back and forth. I mean, the episode starts out where they're all looking at the baby, and then he says, well, we got to get this procedure done. And I kind of thought that's what was going to happen because, they've always said that this is a same-sex species. They reproduce, they just lay an egg. Really quickly, I'm going to say a lot of the comedy in this episode didn't land again.
No, there was a couple moments where I chuckled, but for instance, with the blob thing,
yes,
and with the doctor,
the voice of the blob, and with the doctor, that was funny. And that was about the only thing.
The simulator scene, the holodeck, whatever you want to call it, whatever the Orville's equivalent is, that entire scene with the West having a dance off, none of that comedy landed for me at all. I was bored. I rolled my eyes. It was bad.
Yeah, and they dragged the joke on way too long, and this is now becoming a theme. Every episode, multiple jokes continue to go on way longer than they should. When you're making a joke I don't think is funny, but then you continue to drag that joke out, now I'm starting to get frustrated.
Right. It didn't land. I can't really recall many of the other jokes. There were jokey moments. Like I said in our episode 2 review, too many current pop culture references. They were all over this episode as well. That's not working for me at all. Like sometimes I get it. In the Next Generation, they would go back to Shakespeare and Robin Hood. They'd go further back in human history to pull those references. This show's going with the modern times thing, but it's doing it too much, and it's not limiting it to things like the holodeck. They're using it kind of in their everyday vernacular, like the Orville's taking place 5 years from now somehow.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like, because during the courtroom scene when they were interviewing the pilot, I can't remember his name. I'm still trying to remember everybody's name, but he did like Harry Potter references. And I'm like, there's no way that you would be thinking of Harry Potter if this show is set where it's supposed to be set in the future. You would not be thinking about that. You'd be thinking about something that happened in the last 5 years, pop culture wise, that you've seen, a movie or a show or something like that.
And then the reference with the Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer thing is what changes Bortus's mind about having the whole baby having its gender changed surgically was absurd.
Yes.
Their whole culture is single gender based. Like their entire society is built around it. Females don't exist, or they're a very rare thing. We find out that Bortus's mate was also one of them. But as far as the episode's concerned, we've seen 3 people in their whole entire planet and culture that were born female. You had Bortus's mate, the baby itself, and then, the lady at the end of the episode. That was it. So, I mean, it's an extremely rare thing. What didn't work for me is like they didn't make it seem like there was any kind of risk to the baby at all doing the surgery. I think if they would have put that in there, this was a risky operation somehow or for some reason, and doing it was endangering the child, the whole storyline might have worked a little bit better because now they're risking something. But it seemed like this was literally just kind of a outpatient kind of deal. Even at the end of the episode, spoilers, the baby ends up being converted to a male of the species anyway. Didn't seem like there was any kind of scarring or harm to the child in any way. So I don't understand the risk. And coming from a Star Trek background myself, I'm always thinking like prime directive. And I know that in all the series in Star Trek, captains violated the prime directive kind of at will or in extreme circumstances. I don't think this is one of those circumstances that would have even fallen under the prime directive in the Star Trek universe. There was an episode, Next Generation, dealing with a race of people that had no gender. They weren't male or female. and one of them started getting or having female feelings and was attracted to Riker. That's how you do that kind of a story and have that kind of message without being too on the nose about it. That episode worked for me in The Next Generation. This one didn't in this one. And then the whole female empowerment thing, the first officer's entire court case was absurd and laughable. I think an infant could have presented a better case. Her examples were just extreme examples of a man being dumb and a female being strong. And that was the whole case for women are equal or don't do the surgery. It's like that was kind of laughable. And the person she was interrogating on the stand actually made a good counterpoint, and it was just kind of brushed off.
Yeah, because it didn't fit the narrative. That's why.
It didn't fit the narrative at all. And God, this was preachy.
Also, with the court thing is, so they also introduce a male from the human species to basically point out how stupid he is as a man. They didn't even try to point out that there's no superior intellect. They made it seem like that males were inferior intellect versus females. You're bringing a male from the human race and a female with Allura from another species. Why aren't they using species from the Mocklans who are actually on trial here with this whole case with the child? It doesn't make sense to equate what another species is doing for this culture and this species. It makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, it's just a dumb argument to make in a court case, because you take the extreme example of the strongest female you can find and the dumbest man you can find to make some kind of comparison between the genders.
Yeah, and even if I was the judge in this case, I'd been like, why are you pointing this out? In fact, I won't allow this because these are not Mocklan species, so this has no relevance to this case.
Correct. It was just a bad court argument, not very well thought out. I mean, they did say that she's basically not a lawyer. I didn't expect her to suddenly be like Picard in Measure of a Man. In the Star Trek universe, Picard, as a captain, was always billed to be, a diplomat and an intellectual type of person. That's not these characters at all. They're all kind of dumb.
Yeah, they are pretty stupid. There were a lot of bad decisions made by the entire crew. This would be like the United Nations going into a small tribe in Africa and forcing them to do something that's not intended by their culture to do, or to stop them from doing something their culture has done for hundreds of thousands of years.
And again, we're not talking about, because they didn't imply that there was an actual risk to the baby.
Correct.
We're not implying that they were doing harm. It harms our sensibilities from our own culture, but like in this world and their culture, that's potentially ruined diplomatic relationships over. In this case, they're both, the Mocklan and the humans are part of the Union. They're, kind of like the United Federation of Planets. Like this would jeopardize diplomatic relationship. Like the idea that the Union would even allow the Orville to be involved with this, I would guess that the humans would send high-ranking ambassadors and trained lawyers and things.
Absolutely.
Or tell the Orville to back off. It's their culture, and this is not worth the risk of fracturing our alliance or, forcing members of the Union. Because in this world, and we don't know much about it because this is only the third episode, but what about the other cultures and the other members of the Union? If I'm a member of the Union at the Mocklan and I'm seeing the humans impose their morals on the Mocklans, I'm wondering, okay, how long is it before the humans impose their culture on my planet? And would I want to stay around for that? That's one of the reasons why kind of like the Prime Directive exists in the Star Trek universe and things like that. The greater good is served by just respecting the other planet's culture. So just so much of it didn't work. I'm extremely disappointed.
Me too. There was a lot of stuff that didn't make sense that would not have happened if this was a real thing with the real union of, like Federation of Planets, whatever, same thing as Star Trek. It would not have happened. Like you said, they would have sent diplomats or ambassadors to speak on behalf of the Union, not the captain of the Orville and his crew. I'm sorry. It would have been a much larger situation. Or they would have told them, like you said, to back off. This is not something you need to put your nose into. This is this culture, this planet's culture. You need to respect that and let them deal with this in their own culture and not get involved. That's what it should have happened. And it just didn't work for me at all. Most of the jokes didn't land. And I just thought it was a very, very bad episode.
Yep. Before we get into the wrap up stage, I just want to point out, it'd be one thing I understand, the doctor not wanting to do it, to compel a doctor to perform a surgery that she believes is inappropriate. I wouldn't have ordered her to do it either, but the Mocklans took her out of the equation by offering to do the service. They sent a ship specifically to go do that. So at that point, the humans weren't being required to adopt the Mocklan culture at all. They just needed to let them do it. So that whole excuse was taken away very early in the episode.
Just didn't work.
Mm-mm.
It didn't work at all. The whole thing just fell flat for me. All of it. I did not believe that would happen in this universe.
Yeah.
So.
And overall, I thought the episode was boring. There was times
Yeah.
where I'm fiddling and kind of just rolling my eyes and kind of waiting for the episode to finish.
Mhm.
I mean, I think it was surprising at the end where the surgery was done anyway.
I was kind of shocked at that.
That was interesting. And I like that they did that. That kind of redeemed a little bit there. It didn't seem like an Adam Sandler ending, you know? An Adam Sandler movie ending where it just kind of all works out and they win the case. The Billy Madison ending, you know, like gives a really, really terrible answer and he wins it anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really don't have a lot more to say about the episode. It was really boring. I didn't buy any of it. I thought there were a lot of stupid decisions made by the crew, and the fact that they would be allowed to do this just took me out of the episode completely. It was boring. If we weren't doing this as a thing for the channel, like to watch the episodes and kind of give our thoughts, I probably wouldn't watch anymore. And if this was something I was watching live, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm not watching next week. But I've heard so many good things. I want to see everything that people have been talking about, how good it is. I want to see why. The first episode, yes. The last two, no. So I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah. It's been highly recommended by people whose opinions I highly respect in the community. So I'm hoping that this is just them kind of finding their way, getting into a groove in the show. But I agree. If this were normal circumstances and it wasn't so highly recommended and we weren't doing the review part of it, I probably would tune out. At this point now, I'm not invested in seeing more of it. Like, I'm not excited to see more of it. I'm hoping it gets better. I want to believe. I want to get on board. So, you know, we're going to soldier on, but for me, it's got to get better really quick.
Yeah, hopefully the next week's will be a better episode. I really, really hope so. That was our review of episode 3 of season 1, About a Girl. Hope you guys are enjoying these episodes. Let us know in the comments if you have been, and what are your thoughts on this episode? Have you guys seen the show? Did you like it? Do you have arguments against our arguments? Let us know in the comments section. We would appreciate that. And if you're new to the channel and you do like what you see here, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, we would appreciate that. And I do enjoy doing these reviews. So for myself and Lost Jedi 22, this is the Geek Blend. And remember, if you geek about it, we'll speak about it. We will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.